The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
We have to send a clear message that if you're going to mess around with our troops, you're going to pay the price.
New charges filed against the suspected shooter as the nation mourns the loss of a targeted National Guard member. What the West Virginia governor now says about President Trump's reaction to vetting migrants from certain countries.
We're already doing a lot. We've almost stopped. It's about 85% stopped by sea. You probably noticed that.
New threats by President Trump. What lengths he says he is now prepared to take to stop the drug crisis in our nation. And then a federal judge demanding answers from the DOJ on how it will protect the privacy of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. The new push for justice.
Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person, started service in June of 2023, outstanding in every way. She's just passed away.
President Donald Trump there revealing the tragic news moments after one of the two National Guard members ambushed and targeted in Washington, D.C. died from her injuries. Good evening. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Thank you for being here. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. The other National Guard member attacked, 24-year-old Andrew Wolf, is still hospitalized and fighting for his life. His family and friends asking for prayers. And following the passing of Guard member Sarah Beckstrom, Janine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia's office, said they have updated charges against the suspect, Afghan national Rahmanullah Lakhanwal, adding on first-degree murder. Yesterday, Attorney General Pam Bondi told Fox News that if either of the Guard members were to succumb to their injuries, she would seek the death penalty. Meanwhile, West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey says he supports the Trump administration's migration crackdown in light of two of his state's National Guard members getting shot.
It makes sense to do the review. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here right now to say, let's do the comprehensive review and get it right, because we cannot afford to have any more of our service members be subject to this kind of heinous act.
The suspected shooter reportedly entered the U.S. in 2021 through Operation Allies Welcome, a Biden administration effort that resettled tens of thousands of Afghans after the U.S. military withdrew from the country. Yet, immigration groups say Lakhanwal's asylum was approved under the Trump administration. President Trump is now criticizing former President Biden's resettlement program and wants a reinvestigation of all of the Afghans who came. He's also pushing migration from certain countries to review vetting processes. President Donald Trump says U.S. land action against alleged drug trafficking networks in Venezuela will start very soon. Our national correspondent Kelly Gaskins joins us from Capitol Hill with more on what could be a major escalation in the Caribbean.
On a call with U.S. troops for Thanksgiving, President Trump giving a clear indication where some of the next action will be, expanding the fight against Venezuelan drug cartels from sea to land.
We'll be starting to stop them by land also. The land is easier, but that's going to start very soon. We warn them, stop sending poison to our country.
The comments come as the U.S. has moved fighter jets, more than a dozen warships, and 15,000 troops to the region in recent months. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth spending Thanksgiving with service members on the USS Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier currently deployed to the Caribbean.
Out at sea, interdicting cartels, defending the American people, we are grateful for you.
The U.S. already conducted more than 20 airstrikes on suspected drug boats in the Caribbean, killing at least 83 people. Several of them departed from Venezuela. CNN is reporting administration officials told lawmakers in classified briefings the U.S. does not currently have a legal basis to launch strikes inside Venezuela. A Justice Department legal opinion supporting strikes on suspected drug boats does not extend to land targets or attacks inside another country.
You're watching him dare Congress to stop him.
Kentucky Senator Rand Paul argues President Trump risks losing the political movement he built if he moves towards military action in Venezuela.
I do think, though, that if he invades Venezuela, his movement will dissolve.
Meanwhile, Venezuela is preparing to defend itself, adding fresh layers of defense to the capital city of Caracas and beefing up resources for military and paramilitary groups loyal to their leader, Nicolas Maduro.
A new CBS News YouGov poll finding 70% of Americans opposed U.S. military action in Venezuela. The same poll finding just 13% of Americans considered Venezuela a major threat to the United States. In Washington, I'm Kaylee Gaskins reporting from the National News Desk, America's News Now.
The U.S. has now been granted access to operate within restricted areas in the Dominican Republic. This is all part of the fight against drug trafficking. The U.S. can refuel aircraft, transport equipment, and keep personnel in restricted areas at a certain air bases and airports for a limited time. It's the first major public agreement reached with a Caribbean nation. And new tonight, a federal judge wants answers from the Justice Department on how it will protect the privacy of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. This after attorneys said dozens of names were exposed in unredacted files released by Congress. In a letter to the judge, lawyers for hundreds of survivors said the more than 20,000 documents posted by the House Oversight Committee included names that should have been kept private. Some victims warned that being identified put them in danger and said reporters have approached them in public. The attorneys are urging the DOJ to redact all names in future releases and meet with them to prevent further disclosure. UPS is indefinitely grounding its entire McDonnell Douglas MD-11 fleet for months of inspections after a deadly crash in Kentucky earlier this month. The November crash at Louisville International Airport killed 14 people and injured another 20 when an engine detached during takeoff. In an internal memo, UPS Airlines president said Boeing's ongoing evaluation shows inspections and repairs will be more extensive than initially expected. The company says the extended timeline could last through peak holiday shipping, but it will use contingency plans to keep packages moving. And you can see here the smoke still billowing out of a vacant warehouse in St. Louis. A little dark, but early this morning a fire did break out. Nearby electrical lines and local train tracks also impacted by the fire, but no injuries, thankfully, have been reported at this point. The fire chief told a local news station he believes the fire won't be completely out until Sunday. A strong earthquake rocked portions of Alaska early yesterday, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Look at this video. A 6.0 magnitude earthquake shook the Anchorage metropolitan area around 8 a.m. local time. Now, the quake's epicenter was located about 67 miles northwest of Anchorage, and you can see someone in there trying to seek shelter underneath a counter as products fly off the shelves. There were no immediate reports of damage or injuries. Health and Human Services working to uncover participants who are wrongly collecting federal health care benefits. HHS is looking at those enrolled in Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program and is matching them against those also collecting Obamacare tax credits. Investigators say they will soon provide states with a list of dual enrollees and ask states to recheck eligibility. New York Jets cornerback Chris Boyd is back in the hospital for what he says is health reasons. Look at the post. He had been released days ago after saying he was able to breathe on his own. He had a bullet in his lung after being shot on November 6th. Police have not identified a suspect yet, hoping for his speedy recovery. Coming up next, a weekend of snow. Who could be impacted for their flight or drive home this Thanksgiving weekend? Then, supporting service members. A look at the growing crisis of U.S. troops who are at risk of gambling addictions. And the deep dark web, the black market that is hiding in plain sight. What law enforcement is doing about the known threats. winter-like storm crossing Montana, headed towards the Midwest, bringing snow and high winds with a storm that could impact millions as families head on home after the holiday. Despite the weather so far today, it's been pretty smooth for air travel. Only 62 flights have been canceled into or out of or within the United States today. Well, just over 2,600 flights you see there have been delayed. As we look ahead to tomorrow, on the other hand, 219 flights have been taken off the board, and that number is expected to rise as the weather worsens. Now here behind me, look at the expected radar for tomorrow. This storm is expected to intensify as it moves into the plains. On Sunday, the East Coast will be blanketed in the north. Now, a mix of ice as well as rain in the mid-Atlantic and heavy rains down south, making travel along the I-95 corridor, I should say, pretty messy. Well, it is one of the biggest shopping days of the year, but this Black Friday, we are tracking a big drop in foot traffic. At least that is according to the National Retail Federation. They say they believe roughly 187 million people will shop online or in stores between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday. Sounds like a lot, but it's actually down about 10 million from the near record 197 million reported last year. But a lot of shoppers did head out this morning, like in Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's where the National News Desk Jackie Spikes spoke to some very enthusiastic holiday shoppers.
When it comes to getting good deals on Black Friday,
if you're not first, you're last.
Okay,
that's right.
That was true for many shoppers that we saw standing out in lines as early as 4:45 in the morning this Friday.
We tried to pull an all-nighter. We stayed up until, I would say 1 a.m. we made it, and then we took a little power nap and we were back up by 4.
Olivia Nasca and her friends came to Academy Sports and Outdoors around 5 this morning.
I like to see if there's any scuffles between the other people. I like to try things on. I like to see the color in front of me because they lie online. So I'm an in-person shopper.
Olivia is living proof that some shoppers will do just anything to get a good deal.
If someone started with me first, I'm not going to jump in over some clothing, but if someone wants to get upset with me over it, that's the Black Friday spirit.
Well, right off the bat, we're probably over 100 people at this point. Early Black Friday, Academy Sports and Outdoors, fun can't lose this holiday season.
Now, right now, I'm standing right outside of the pink Victoria's Secret store. Now, it wasn't too long ago when you saw shoppers just flooding into the store trying to get all of the deals. Now, some people may think, is Black Friday dead because everybody's now shopping online? But this line that you all see right beside me is living proof that Black Friday is very much alive.
We've always been packed out, so I expect another year of really, really big crowds.
Just hoping we spin the wheel and get something real good.
Yes, yes.
That's right. Woo!
From Chattanooga, I'm Jackie Spikes.
Appreciate the endurance to be able to stand in those long lines so early in the morning. Well, with the explosion of sports betting and other forms of gambling across the United States, there are new warnings of a population that may be far more prone to addictive gambling, those serving in the U.S. military. The National News Desk, Christine Frizzell with a closer look.
It can simultaneously bring a halt to boredom, a huge adrenaline rush, and, once in a while, a financial payout. That concerning combination was enough to reel in Army Staff Sergeant Dave Yeager, deployed to Korea shortly after 9/11, leaving his wife and 2 young children behind.
They put me up on the base. I'm walking around the hotel and happened to notice a casino-style slot room. I walked in, I took a couple $100 out, I decided to play, and I think that's where the seed was planted, because I won. And all of the stress I was feeling and all the strain I was feeling just washed away in that moment.
That moment familiar to many in the military. With 12 overseas bases, 3,100 slot machines, which brought in more than $91 million in 2024 alone. Part of a campaign to boost morale and provide recreation. While not permitted on bases inside the country, Yeager says they're easy to find.
Here in the States, oftentimes near major military installations, you find a casino.
Do you think that's intentional?
Yeah, it's a guaranteed income. It's a ready-made guaranteed income with a crowd that's ready to be advertised to.
That crowd was central to a recent Government Accountability Office report looking at problem gambling among members of the U.S. military. Demographic risk factors include being younger and having a higher propensity for risk-taking. Risks which, for Yeager, almost cost him everything, as he details in his book, Fall In, a veteran with a gambling addiction.
Within that 6 years, I was divorced. I lost contact with my children for 2 years. I had 4 suicide attempts. Basically wiped out any savings that I had.
Yeager was able to turn his life around with his now grown children back in his life and a new marriage. Much of his life now devoted to spreading the word on problem gambling. According to the Department of Defense, service members are now screened for gambling disorders in their annual health exams. The VA also provides gambling addiction treatment and counseling. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National News Desk.
Right now, as many as 270 people still missing in Hong Kong after the region's deadliest fire in decades. The death toll has now risen to at least 128. New drone video here showing just how bad the damage is. Flames climbed 32 stories in just 5 minutes. The apartment complex was under renovation and encased in bamboo scaffolding, a very flammable material. We know 3 men who worked for a construction company have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter in relation to the fire. Meantime, an intense search and rescue mission underway in Indonesia after deadly floods and landslides. At least 174 people have died and as many as 79 people are unaccounted for. A map behind me showing exactly where this happened. Authorities say that rescue missions were delayed due to damage to local bridges and roads in the area. Heavy rains over the past week caused the banks of rivers to burst. On Tuesday, the deluge tore through the mountainside village, sweeping away people and submerging over 2,000 homes and buildings. We know nearly 5,000 residents have already fled to government shelters. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. From residents fed up with repeat criminals in Washington state to a push to pay high school athletes in Ohio. We're taking the pulse of America, but we start with the investigation into a home explosion in Maine.
There was like a loud bang that through the air, and everything on my wall came flying off onto the ground.
One neighbor describing what he heard after an explosion rocked Lakeview Drive in Oakland this Thanksgiving afternoon. The town's fire department later telling us it happened around 3:40 p.m. This is all that's left, and this is video taken moments after. A middle-aged man was injured and transported to Thayer Hospital in Waterville before he was flown via life flight to Maine Medical Center in Portland.
And I saw what I believe to be somebody's couch 60 feet up in the air, and it was really scary. I had no time to think. Without shoes on, I just ran down to see if I could help.
Member schools voted last week on the emergency measure. Tim Streed with the OHSAA says the association asked members to vote yes on the proposal.
Because it did allow NIL to a certain extent, but it had guardrails in place too. It had limitations, and that's what we felt was appropriate.
It was more than a 3-to-1 margin of schools voting in favor of the measure. Now, this change comes after a Dayton area student filed a lawsuit against the OHSAA for preventing student athletes from capitalizing on their name, image, and likeness, or NIL. Street says that they would have lost that court battle, so the change was needed. The policy allows students to earn money. They can only do so on their own time, and they can't use their uniform or school name or property as part of the deal.
Schools cannot pay athletes directly, and that's one of the biggest differences between high school NIL and college NIL.
For that to happen 5:30 in the evening in a very, very busy area, that's alarming.
Multiple businesses in Queen Anne are making repairs after police say a man took a crowbar to several windows and randomly hit multiple people. One victim provided police with pictures, and officers arrested 24-year-old Jeremiah Martin for malicious mischief and assault after the victim was able to positively identify him.
We do see people running up and down the street screaming their brains out, high on drugs or whatever, losing their mind about something on a regular basis. Like that, it's pretty consistent.
Coming up next, taking on the dark web, why law enforcement is having a hard time taking down known threats. The dark web is a marketplace of anonymous websites filled with illegal activity. Despite efforts by law enforcement to take down bad actors, many continue to thrive. Spotlight on America national investigative correspondent Angie Moreski reports.
Take us onto the dark web.
Getting on the dark web is not something most of us do.
The main sites have mostly drugs, fraud, and digital.
Jacob Lott, an internet security expert and white hat hacker who helps businesses fight cybercrime, guided Spotlight through the complicated process.
You have to use a VPN.
First, using a virtual private network to encrypt your internet location.
Do the Tor browser install.
Then downloading a special browser called the Onion Router or Tor, which blocks the tracking of your movements.
Are you in?
Yep.
Once you're in,
what do you see?
Cocaine, weed, Xanax.
You find many online marketplaces for illegal goods and services.
Stolen credit cards, accounts, passwords, emails, any kind of number of drugs that you can think of, firearms, and other hacking services.
The sale of drugs, weapons, and tools for fraud is rampant, but also much worse.
There's sex trafficking. There's, they're selling a lot of child porn. They're selling things that people are going to put a value on to pay to see or experience.
Incredibly disturbing things Spotlight documented included ads for the sale of human organs, murder for hire, even tickets to watch torture, many images too graphic to show.
It's a group effort to fight the dark web.
It is, and not just domestically, internationally.
The Secret Service is among the multiple government agencies that fight illegal activity on the dark web.
From credit card fraud to sextortion to child exploitation material.
Secret Service Supervisory Criminal Investigator Ken Henderson told Spotlight their agency's role is to investigate financial crimes on the dark web, often going undercover.
Go where the criminals are, see what they're talking about.
So basically you guys are trying to infiltrate their networks.
Correct, yeah.
Last fall, the Secret Service helped take down a $1 billion Russian money laundering operation where 3 illicit cryptocurrency exchanges were seized. Visitors to those sites are now greeted with this message from law enforcement saying the domain was seized.
The challenge is figuring out who that person is sitting behind the keyboard. Could be somebody down the street, or it could be somebody in Siberia.
While there are successes, investigations can take years.
Is it a matter of these criminals making a mistake? Someone always makes a mistake.
Yeah, and it's sometimes not when they're doing the crime, but when they're just online doing their own personal thing, sometimes they mix up accounts.
FBI search warrant!
The FBI is another key agency policing illegal activity on the dark web. This video is from a takedown in 2019.
I got some pills over here.
It targeted opioid sales on the dark net and led to 5 arrests in California.
How do you finally get the bad guy?
We've had a lot of success in the past. People taking vacations. They want to use these hard-earned dollars of theirs that they got committing financial crimes, and they want to go lounge on a beach somewhere. Well, we're waiting for them.
The FBI is the primary agency responsible for policing the dark web, especially for those horrific crimes like child sex trafficking. We have requested an interview with them to learn more about their efforts. They told Spotlight they are considering our request. We'll stay on it and report back with any updates. For Spotlight on America, I'm Angie Moreski.
And finally, tonight, a look at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, where Eagles fans are leaving the stadium a bit disappointed on a special NFL Friday game that just went final. The Eagles offense struggled again, this time falling to the Chicago Bears 24-15. And that's going to do it for us for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Dee Dee Gatton here in Washington. We'll see you tonight at 10.